Spice. There's a lot to it and sometimes it can be overwhelming. But don't worry, because this video is gonna level up your cooking so you don't have to use a nacho mix ever again. I'm looking at you, Basic Mitch. Today, I'm gonna show you how I think about spice and how chefs create custom flavors to make your home cooking as delicious as possible. And at the end, I'll even show you my rub recipe. And a huge thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. If you need a website, they're the people to talk to. More on them later. Let's get into spice. So starting with the spice category, which is basically chilies. This is probably the category you think of the most when you're thinking about spice, but there's so much more to spices than just the chili categories, and there's so many different types of chilies, but you definitely don't need them all. The next category is warming spices, and it's really broad, and it actually can have the biggest impact on how your food tastes, especially when we're talking about regional cuisines. Next up, the pepper. Probably the shortest category, but again, can have a really big impact. And pepper is peppercorns, but there is a few different types of peppercorns that do a few different things. Most notably on this section, Szechuan peppercorns, which technically aren't peppercorns, but we'll give it a pass. And I think people have a really big misconception about these, that these are spicy. They're not spicy at all. They just have a numbing effect on your mouth when you eat it. What makes these spicy is the mountains of dried chilies that people from the Szechuan region in China also add to their dishes when they're using these peppercorns. And lastly, aromatics, and they're quite often in whole form. They can be ground, but more often than not, they're in whole form, and they add really good levels of base layer flavor. Now, as someone who's cooked literally thousands of dishes at this point, I feel more than comfortable pulling from these four categories to create delicious flavors. But today, I'm gonna give you some recipes for some of the most common spice blends around. So the first of the spice blends that we're gonna make is Garam Masala. So Garam Masala is actually a spice blend that's toasted and ground. And there's lots of different variations of this. Depending on the type of dish that you're cooking, has a different Garam Masala, but we're gonna make, I guess, an all-round Garam Masala today. So, in this basic Indian style Garam Masala, we're gonna start with 2 tablespoons of coriander seeds, 1 tablespoon cumin seeds, 1 tablespoon green cardamom, 2 teaspoons black peppercorns, half a teaspoon clove, 1 cinnamon stick. We're gonna break it up so that it toasts more evenly throughout the cinnamon stick. 1 small nutmeg, Bobby. Oh no, R.I.P. We've also got a couple of dried bay leaves. We're not gonna put these in the pan now because they won't take too long to toast. So we'll just get these ready and leave them to the side. So we're gonna toast this over a medium-low heat. The reason we do a medium-low heat is we wanna make sure we toast them well, and if we do it too hot, it's just gonna toast the outside as opposed to toasting all the way through. So the reason we toast the spices like this is to release the volatile oils and enhance flavor. This is a finishing spice, so it's gonna go into the dish near the end of cooking. So we wanna make sure these spices are as alive as possible, which is another reason as to why making your own and go to the effort of making your own, because then you know it's lovely and fresh. And you think about the categories that we're using here. So we're using warming, aromatic, and pepper. We're not using spice, and that's deliberate, because then depending on what curry we put this in, if we want a really aromatic curry with not too much spice, then we're okay with this Garam Masala. Now, most of the spices are about 80% toasted. We're gonna add our bay leaves. So what are we looking for to know when they're done? Well, it's actually more of a nose thing. They're gonna start opening up, the scent's gonna start permeating the room, and you'll just kind of know inherently. Make sure you don't over toast them. If you burn them, they will taste nasty. All right, it's time to grind. Now you can absolutely use a mortar and pestle, just like your grandma would. And the reason people like this is because of the stone action. So you've got stone on stone. You know, I think people will argue that it kind of opens up and adds more flavor. However, some of us have lives to live. So I just use one of these. Come at me in the comments, Nana. And that is Garam Masala. It's super easy to make and is so much better than store-bought pre-ground stuff. Perfect to finish your curries and your stews. And honestly, if you don't make it, that's okay. I understand. But now you know how to make it if you want to. All right, unlike a Garam Masala where I gave you permission to go and buy it, you shouldn't go and buy packet nacho mixes. Why? Because they're not great. They kinda suck and they're super easy to make. This one is a real good baseline one that you can kind of play with and try upping some ingredients, removing them, whatever your kind of palate desires. And it's perfect for everything. For ground meat, if you're making like broccoli bowls, if you're a gym head. It's great for chicken fajitas like we're gonna make today. It's great for nachos, all kinds of applications in the Tex Mex world of cuisine. It's really easy to make. Let me show you how to do it. So for nacho spice mix, you're simply gonna mix together ground chili powder, ground cumin, smoked paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, dried Mexican oregano, or just normal oregano if you can't find it, ground coriander, black pepper, and salt. So we're just gonna add our spice mix to some sliced chicken. And I think the salt's an interesting thing, right? Because French cooking especially, when you talk about seasoning, you're just talking about salt and sometimes pepper as well. Whereas I think especially in North America, people talk about seasoning, they talk about like spice rubs and stuff like that. It's just a different naming convention. So I've added a good amount of that nacho mix to the chicken. I'm also gonna add the juice of a lime, about a tablespoon of neutral flavored oil, and we'll give that a mix. And then I'm simply gonna dice up a white onion, a yellow capsicum, a red capsicum, a jalapeno, and some garlic. And a large fry pan over a high heat. I'm gonna heat a little bit more oil till it's just starting to smoke. We're gonna sweat off our veg first. Then we're gonna remove the veg from the pan, add the chicken to the nice hot pan, fry until it's cooked all the way through, add the veg back, and that's our fajita meat done. There you go, fajitas. Some toasted tortillas, a little bit of salsa verde. Whew. So much better than a packet spice mix. Now, before we move on to the next recipe, let me tell you a little bit more about Squarespace. Its design intelligent feature uses AI to build personalized websites that match your style perfectly. And it's as simple as answering some questions and you're gonna get a website tailored to your needs. Creators also benefit from integrated social media tools that automatically share across platform, saving time while building audience across channels. Plus, monetization is simple with Squarespace payments. It handles purchases, subscriptions, and checkout all in the one system. If you want to create your own site, then head to squarespace.com/AndyCooks for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use code AndyCooks to save 10% of your first purchase. Now let's get back to the cooking. So next up, we're gonna make our own curry powder. And you're probably going, Andy, why am I making my own curry powder? Well, because there's thousands of regional types of curry. We're gonna make a Jamaican goat curry today. So what does a Jamaican goat curry need? Pimento, and lots of it. So the best thing to do is to make your own spice blends and your own curry powders at that point, because then you can play around with it. You can find out, oh, I actually quite like a lot of pimento. I like a little bit less pimento. I like more turmeric. We're gonna use raw ground spices, and it's as simple as putting them all together in a bowl and mixing it up. So we've got turmeric, coriander seeds, cumin seeds, mustard powder, dried ginger, pimento, also known as allspice, chili powder, cinnamon, and black pepper. We're using raw, pre-ground spices today because we're gonna bloom them in the oil in a second. So to make a Jamaican style curry goat, we're simply gonna cut up some green onions, we're gonna grate some garlic, some ginger, and we're also gonna cut up a Scotch bonnet. We're gonna run our knife through that a few times, then we're gonna add that to the diced up goat. Next, we're gonna add the juice of 2 limes, a big pinch of salt, and some of the curry powder that we made earlier. Mix really well and set aside for 1.5 to 3 hours to marinate. So to cook our goat curry, one of the first things we need to do is to bloom our spices. So what is blooming? Well, it's adding heat and opening up our spices in oil in this case. We've talked about adding heat to our spice in our Garam Masala through dry roasting. Blooming effectively is the same thing, but in oil before we add any other ingredients. Now we're gonna add our fat. In this case, we're using coconut oil. Now we want our fat hot, but we do not want it smoking hot. We don't want to have this too hot or it's going to burn the spices. We're trying to open them up. We're not trying to really cook them hard. Once our fat's hot, add the spice and give it a stir. This is perfect. That's what I want to see. Little bubbles, it toasting nicely, but it not burning. Keep it moving around the pan. And just like Garam Masala, it's all about the nose. It's all about the scent. Once the room is permeated and filled with a delicious smell of that curry powder, you know it's good to go. So we're going to add our onions. And if you like it really spicy, you can add more chili at this point as well. Another Scotch bonnet would not go astray right now. Next, goat's in. Give it a stir. Lid on. After about 10 minutes, we're gonna give it another stir. We'll add about 1/2 liter of water and let that cook till it's fall apart tender. So we're gonna have some rice and pea with our goat curry. And I think it's a great time to talk about another way to use spice. So I've got some whole pimento here, which I've just dropped everywhere, but that's all right. And we're gonna use it kind of like you would tea. So we've got the whole spice. It's going straight in the pot with some soaked kidney beans, water, a Scotch bonnet, and some thyme. And what that pimento is gonna do is just really flavor that water. And you can do that when you're doing like saucy curries or stews. You can do it if you're making things like mulled wine in Christmas time, where you infuse the wine with really warming spices like cinnamon, clove, and star anise. So goat curry is lovely and tender. It's been stewing for like 3 hours at this point, and it should just literally fall off the bone. Okay, like so. One of the good things you can do is we can add a little bit more of that raw curry powder that we made earlier. And all that's going to do is just like intensify and boost those flavors. And that's the other good thing about making your own. If you like it really spicy, you can make your curry powder really spicy. If you don't like it super spicy, you can make it not so spicy. Our rice and pea is ready. If you see a pimento, pull it out, otherwise someone's going to bite into it, and I don't mind it, but some people don't like it. Here's one there. Thank you, sir, you've done your job. Goodbye. Some green onions to finish. Delicious. Curry goat, rice and pea with our own Jamaican inspired curry powder. I can't wait to taste this. The depth of flavor is through the roof. That is delicious. But next up, we're gonna get to that dry rub. Now, I'm gonna demonstrate some rub on some pulled beef. Got some beef cheeks here, and I think it's worth mentioning that rubs, the category I'm talking about is what you would use if you're smoking meat, whether that's pork or beef, or in some cases, people use rubs on their steaks. Personally, I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to steaks. I just use salt, but rubs are not hard to make, and I think it's a really cool thing to make yourself, because it's a great starting point. I'm gonna show you a good starting point, and then you can take it wherever you want. So this is what I make in my rub, and I think my rub's the best rub ever, but I think everyone that cooks thinks the same thing. So we've got cooking salt or kosher salt, and in quantity, you kind of want in volume, 50% cooking salt, and 50% everything else, if that makes sense. In volume, not in weight, which is really important. So kosher salt, ground black pepper. Oh, that's really fine. When you're doing black pepper for things like this, you want it pretty coarse, especially in barbecue. It's the other interesting thing about spices is that you got to think about how the other conditions are affecting that spice as well, and smoking is a really good example of that. When you're talking about smoking like barbecue, the smoked almost another spice, even though it's not technically a spice, but what happens is that the fat reacts with the spice and the smoke, and that's what creates bark. Salt, pepper, mustard powder, cayenne, smoked paprika. I go pretty heavy on the smoked paprika. Onion powder, garlic powder, and dried thyme. Now this is we'll call this Andy's special all-purpose rub. Really good on chicken breast, really good on like kind of fattier fishes that can take a bit of extra flavor, and then really good for like smoking pork shoulders or pork butts, and really good when you're doing like pulled beef like I'm doing now. I'm doing beef cheeks here today, but you could do it with like a piece of chuck eye, yeah, or a brisket even. The only other thing I like to add when I'm smoking, as opposed to when I'm just flash frying, is a little bit of sugar. So in the smoker, low and slow, it can handle the sugar's not gonna burn. If you put sugar in your rub and then you pan fry it or you grill the steak, that sugar is gonna burn. So I got beef cheeks here, all trimmed up for the smoker. Got some yellow mustard as my binder. There's no easy way to do this. It's honestly better just to get your hands involved. Make sure that mustard's completely covering it, because you wanna make sure that you are covering all sides in your rub. Now I smell like a hot dog. Other things that would work really well in pulled beef. Ground coffee, fine ground coffee works exceptionally well. If you live in Australia or you can get access to it, native wattle seed works really, really well. Instead of brown sugar, you can use maple sugar. I really like the kind of caramel flavors of maple sugar. Works really, really well. And if you like a bit of heat, there's all kinds of different chilies that you can use. So you can use the Korean gochugaru, which is like a Korean chili flake. If you want a really vibrant color, using like a Kashmiri chili powder works really well. Go wild, go crazy. What's the worst that can happen? So when using a rub, season from a height and make sure we're getting it pretty good coverage on the whole thing. Because it might feel like you're over seasoning it, but don't forget 50% of this isn't salt. So the only way you over season something really is if you have too much salt. And as my mate John says, you eat all sides, so season all sides. So you're gonna place your beef cheeks into a smoker that's preheated to 135 degrees Celsius for 4 hours. Ooh. Then you're gonna place an oven-safe dish half filled with beef tallow in there. You're gonna put the beef cheeks into the tallow and continue cooking them for another 4 hours. And there you go, beautifully smoked, tender and unctuous. So that's the beef cheeks done. And I think one other thing you could think about with flavoring, especially in smoker, is what wood you're using. So we used hickory pellets today, but if you used apple wood or cherry wood, you're gonna find that it's gonna have a different flavor. Not really a seasoning, but kind of is, if that makes sense. But like all good barbecue, the proof's in the pudding. Oh. That is delicious. You can taste all those delicious spices coming through, lovely beefy flavor, and you can taste that hickory. Lovely and sweet, delicious. Now I'm very aware that this is a ridiculous amount of spice for most people to have in their homes. So I thought I'd write a list to show you what I think you really need. Let's call it the Andy Spice Starter Kit. And this is what you need. So in the aromats, we have thyme, oregano, garlic powder, onion powder. In our warming section, we have cinnamon, turmeric, coriander, cumin, and optionally nutmeg. I prefer to get whole nutmeg. Chili flakes, and smoked paprika. Salt and pepper, of course. And the king of all seasonings, yum yum. Monosodium glutamate, MSG, it's delicious. Thanks legends so much for watching. Like this video if you're taking anything from it, subscribe if you're not, and we'll see you next week for another video. Peace. I'll take that.